Well, that was a doozy of a day yesterday on the weather front. Good morning, 6:04. It is great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. If you were in parts of Platte or Clay County last night, obviously you got hit with some pretty big hail on and off, and also had a couple of tornado warnings on and off throughout the evening as well. We'll talk more about it throughout the morning right here on KCMO Talk Radio as the sun gets set to rise next hour. Everything you need to know, what's happening up in the Northland, how they are digging out and recovering, we'll get to you right here on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, Kansans will spend 30 to 40 years digging out from this terrible Chiefs deal that continues to get worse by the day. So yesterday, there was a hearing in Topeka on House Bill 2793, which establishes a Kansas Sports Facility Authority. And there was testimony yesterday. There were people up there talking, and some of these people were tied in with the Chiefs. Some of these people were tied in with just the public, right? It was a great opportunity for people to have their voices heard yesterday in Topeka. And you had a lot of people up there discussing things and sharing their thoughts and their opinions. And I want to share something that was said by Corb Maxwell. He's the attorney who is representing the Chiefs. Now, to be clear, he's just doing his job. I know a lot of people who work with him. Seems like a fine guy. He's been hired by the team. He's got a job to do. I'm not upset with him. And by the way, you shouldn't be upset with him. Who you should be upset with are the politicians who are selling the taxpayers of this state down a river. That is where the frustration should be. The people who are elected by you, by us, to go to Topeka and represent them, not their special interests, not their buddies, not big business, but you, the taxpayer, they're the ones who are screwing you here. Let's be very clear. But I thought it was an interesting moment when Corb Maxwell talked about how, hey, we got to get this project going. We got to get this Kansas Sports Authority set up, which basically is similar to how it's done in Jackson County, where there's a sports authority that's kind of overseeing all the operations. It allows the team to not have to obviously own the stadium. They'll get a property tax abatement. Any, $7 million they'll pay in rent will go basically back to the team on improvements. I mean, it is the sweetheart of all sweetheart deals, right? But there was a moment here when Corb Maxwell, the attorney for the Chiefs, was speaking in Topeka, and he said something that if you just take it on its surface made sense. But I thought he showed his hand on something here. And I thought he showed his hand in a way that told the story of what really was going to be happening when the Chiefs built this new stadium in KCK.
And then they will oversee sort of our administration of the facility and make sure that the facility is kept up in good repair.
Okay, so he's talking about keeping the facility up in good repair and whatnot, right? I mean, that's fine, and that's kind of the point of the Kansas Sports Authority. Of course, the money that's going to be used to repair it is going to be the rent money the Chiefs pay to be there. So, boy, that's a great deal. Imagine paying your mortgage, and that mortgage payment you pay goes back to you to keep up your house. Raise your hand. You want that deal? Yeah, sign me up too. Okay. Then he talks about how we got to get the project going here in Kansas. We got to get moving.
We need to get going on this facility to have it open by 2031. And we need to make sure that we're using absolutely best national practices, that we're able to hire the best architects in the world, the best construction companies. We're going to be in a very competitive construction market given the number of NFL facilities that are getting built out there. And so we want to be able to put our best foot forward to deliver a facility of national scope to the state.
Okay. So he says it's going to be a very competitive market out there, talking about construction and things like that, because there's a bunch of other NFL stadiums being rebuilt, right? I mean, look around the country. Who's going to be doing it? Washington, D.C., Denver's on the verge of doing one. I mean, you can go up and down the list, and there are new stadiums that are going to be popping up around the country. So with that being the case, first off, he's recognizing in part that a big part of the jobs creation here for the project is temporary construction jobs. When they tell you all the jobs coming in from the project, no, most of the jobs are just flipping across the state line. And there will be temporary jobs that come out of this from elsewhere that will be tied to the construction side of what happens with the stadium. Okay, that's something, I guess, but they're here, then they're gone. It's not really a massive windfall. People are not staying here. They're not deciding Kansas City is going to be the place that they call home. They'll move on to their next job, right? So right away, you realize, first off, some of these jobs are going to be coming from elsewhere, and then they'll be here and gone. It's not really long-term growth for the state of Kansas in any meaningful way. There might be a couple of guys that show up here, work on the stadium, and are like, I like it here, I'll stay. But we're not talking about some massive influx of people in any meaningful way. But then the reason he showed his hand there is because he admitted that we have a lot of new NFL stadiums that are going to be getting built. So with that being the case, all of a sudden, all this talk about, the Chiefs are going to be in a great spot. You just wait. An amazing spot to get Super Bowls and Final Fours. Jacksonville's got a new stadium coming. Bills have a new stadium this year. The Titans have a new stadium opening up next year. The Bears are on the verge of starting a new stadium up in Chicago. All these places are all thinking the same thing. We're getting Final Fours, and we're getting Super Bowls too. And by the way, they probably will, because with a new stadium comes what? A Super Bowl courtesy of the NFL, assuming it's manageable, assuming they can do it indoors in some way. Buffalo may not get one, although the Giants and the Jets got one with MetLife Stadium. But I doubt Buffalo gets one because that one will be outdoors. But Jacksonville, Chicago, if their stadium's indoors, they'll get one. We know about Nashville as well. Throw in Washington, D.C. So if you think that Kansas City's getting more than one Super Bowl, you are kidding yourself. And do you make a move like this for one game? At one point over a 30-year span. Final Fours, maybe one. But suddenly DC's going to want one too with their brand new stadium. All right? Look around the country. Nashville. The list goes on and on and on. Can Chicago now do a Final Four if they have a brand new indoor stadium over the next few years? He's admitting that competition is happening around the country with these brand new NFL facilities. And if you think that Kansas City magically jumps to the top of the list for multiple Super Bowls and multiple Final Fours, come on. Wake up. Smell the roses. You're being sold a bill of goods. You are.
That we are also meeting all of the operational goals, going out and bidding for college football playoffs, going and bidding for Final Fours, going and bidding for conventions and otherwise. They'll be involved in that type of work, that they'll be coordinating that with the team.
The other one that comes up, the college football playoff. The college football playoff is played in stadiums that already have ties to bowl games around the sport. Okay? Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl. You go on down the list. Those bowl games already have ties to the college football playoff. Now, is it possible the world of college football changes dramatically over the next few years? And these college football playoff games are not directly tied to existing bowl games, like the Cotton Bowl, let's say, down in Dallas. It's possible. Nobody involved with the Chiefs project has any idea what's going to happen with the future of college football. Heck, nobody could have predicted the last 15 years of college football. And if you could have predicted this, please go buy a lottery ticket today. Save yourself a lot of time and a lot of headache. Even the college football playoff promises it's just made up. It's just supposed to sound good. That's it. That's the only point of it. There's nothing to suggest that the college football playoff is now suddenly going to be played at venues that have zero ties to existing bowl games in the sport of college football. There's nothing whatsoever to suggest that's the case. But hey, go up there in front of the politicians. Half of them don't know the sport of college football. They don't know what's going on. Oh, wow, there's a playoff in college football. We might get a game. Cool. Okay, I'm in. Kansas Sports Authority, let's go. It is so insulting to those of us who actually kind of mildly follow sports. You don't have to be a diehard sports fan to really conceptualize any of this. You have to be a casual sports fan to realize there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on here, a lot of it. And when the lead attorney for the Chiefs project comes out and makes the case of we got to get moving because it's a very competitive market, you should be pumping the brakes right there and saying, boy, maybe we're not getting half a dozen Super Bowls and 10 Final Fours over the next 30 years. It was never going to happen anyway. But now when you talk about the competition that they're outwardly speaking about with other massive stadiums around the country, this is why you look at the project and you hopefully want to pump the brakes. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I think the Kansas Sports Authority bill is going to pass with flying colors? Probably. It's too far down the road. But here's what to watch. What to watch over the next several months is what happens with the banks, with Wells Fargo and Bank of America. What happens with these banks as they analyze these star bonds? And there's a strong possibility that the Chiefs come back to the state of Kansas and they say, we can't do this without the state backing the bonds. And at that point, it will be so far down the road. It may be after the November election, after a governor's race, after everybody, is safe from political retribution, that they come out and they say, you know what, we'll back the bonds because we have to get the deal done. That is just something to watch in the months to come. And despite all these politicians saying the state's not at any risk, we have no skin in the game as a taxpayer, don't you worry about it, that's never really been true because there's now money that would have gone to the general fund that's going to be going to pay off a stadium. So separate, this is something to watch in the months to come. And it would not shock me in talking to some people involved if that's where this thing ends up going. It won't happen tomorrow. It won't happen next week. But it could very well end up happening. And it wouldn't shock me if it ended up happening. Mike Thompson is a Kansas State senator. He put up a very in-depth piece on this Kansas Sports Authority bill. And he ends the piece, I'll share it on social media. He ends the piece saying this bill is not good for Kansas for all the reasons I stated above. I could have dived even deeper, but the bottom line is, if passed, this bill ensures the Chiefs will get everything they asked for in the lopsided Star Bonds deal. These unelected, unaccountable authorities can never be reined in once they are established. In my opinion, the opportunity to vote this down represents the last free exit on the turnpike to perdition. That is from State Senator in Shawnee, Mike Thompson, District 10. I will share that on Facebook and on X if you want to read it there. You can do the deep dive yourself as well. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. It's good to be here on a Wednesday morning after some big storms blew through up in the Northland. I do want to get to what happened up in Leavenworth. They are moving ahead with CoreCivic. They are moving ahead with a detention facility. And you had people getting kicked out of that thing left and right last night. We have some of that entertaining audio with a few bleeps in it coming up next. Well, the fireworks from the weather did not just come in the Northland yesterday in Clay and Platte County. We also had fireworks at the Leavenworth City Commission meeting last night where a vote passed 4-1, granting the final approval for a special use permit allowing a former, now closed prison to reopen as an ICE detention facility operated by CoreCivic to be repurposed as an ICE detention center. The vote marks the second required approval under city rules. So commissioners had already supported the permit after a lengthy public hearing 2 weeks earlier, but a second vote was needed to finalize the decision. Now, considering you had a prison that was closed, that was sitting there in a community that is obviously well known for its ability to operate a prison, I don't see any downside to any of this. See, what the administration is doing here is they're trying to find already facilities that exist that they can quickly turn into ICE detention centers. That way they're not wasting time building from the ground up. It's the same reason they were potentially going to use that facility in South Kansas City. What's happening there is TBD, but there still are potential opportunities for that facility in South Kansas City to become an ICE detention facility as well. But they identified this location in Leavenworth, and it's like, okay, we have a prison already. How quickly can we turn that into an ICE detention facility in a community that obviously knows how to operate in and around a prison? That's what it has been used for in Leavenworth. Someone once told me, you guys may know the story, and I don't want to get off the beaten path here. However, someone told me that back 150 years ago, Leavenworth had the opportunity to either be the home of the prison or of the university, KU. And they picked the prison because they thought it brought more jobs. Now, it did at the time, but obviously if you had your druthers today, knowing how things have changed in the country over 150 years, you probably would have picked KU. But Leavenworth had first dibs, as I've been told on the story, and they picked the prison over the university. So here we are, 150 years later, and still having the conversation. But anyway, you had a lot of people yesterday fired up. You had people getting kicked out as well from the meeting in Leavenworth, and here is part of what it sounded like.
You need to look at your city regulations. This is not going to help. Core Civic is going to kill your city. Core Civic and ICE. ICE.
All right, buddy. Put your mask back on. It's going to be okay. Take yourself home. It's going to be all right. But that's what you had. Suddenly, the Olathe City Hall meeting a couple of weeks back around the Chiefs is child's play compared to that. That was quite a scene. He was not the only guy getting dragged out of there as well. That was happening to a couple of folks last night. And then you had this. After the vote passed, you had people outside of the Leavenworth City Commission meeting chanting.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
Shame, 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 shame. I'm going to make that my ringtone. Everyone around me is going to hate me every time my phone goes off.
You know, it's funny. We're potty training my youngest right now, and when she went in her diaper yesterday, we were doing that to her on the way back to her room. Shame! Shame! And then she started chanting with us. She thought it was funny.
She walks through the hallways as you're all chanting, shame, 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 shame. I think they do that in the nursing homes, too, when you poop yourself. That's what happens there as well. Oh, man, that's funny. But you got a few dozen people outside. Shame, shame, shame. Okay, well, it passed, okay? 4-1 vote. That was the vote in Leavenworth yesterday. And you know what? If you want to be upset with somebody, if you don't like the idea of this facility potentially being in Leavenworth, you know who you should be mad at? Be mad at the last guy who was the president of the United States, who allowed tens of millions of people in illegally, and now the guy in charge today has to clean up the mess. That's where your frustration should be placed. Coming up, if you care about the kids, one of our two states made a great call yesterday. Next. Two great wins yesterday I wanted to highlight. I saw these, they're actually getting to work in some of our state capitals. I saw Mike Kehoe down in Missouri still pushing for an elimination of the state income tax. We'll get to that here in a second. But in Kansas, big wins yesterday. Number one, House passed a bell-to-bell no-cell policy for Kansas students. Let's go. Woo! So the Kansas House voted to concur with Senate amendments on a bill that requires school districts and accredited non-public schools to adopt policies restricting student cell phone use during the day. This is a no-brainer. This should have been the easiest bill to pass, and frankly, they should have done it a long time ago. But I'm not going to harp on that. I'm going to focus on the good thing, and that's the fact that the vote passed or the bill passed, and it's done. In a statement from Speaker Dan Hawkins, a bell-to-bell, no-cell policy helps ensure classrooms are places for learning and interaction, not distractions. It's about helping students stay focused on instruction, their classmates, and the work in front of them. It's a no-brainer. Majority Leader Chris Croft saying the bill helps put education back at the center of the classroom. Constant cell phone use has become a major distraction for students and a challenge for teachers trying to keep kids focused. So what this does is it allows the school districts to hide behind state law. They don't look like the bad guys anymore here. And I mean that in a good way. They don't have to deal with unruly teachers, or I should say unruly parents, and unruly students being like, my kid needs his phone or her phone in the classroom at all times. You don't tell my kid what to do with the phone. Karen, it's state law. Sorry, I hate to break it to you, but little Johnny and little Susie can't have their phone in class, okay? They can't do it. They can't have it out in class. We have state law now that protects us from this. It's about their well-being. I'm sorry you feel the way you do, Karen, but it's time for you to tell little Johnny to put away his cell phone. Okay? Good. So this bill now goes to Governor Kelly's desk. I'd like to think that Governor Kelly will easily sign this. I'd like to think that Governor Kelly is not going to have any kind of pushback on this. It's a chance for her to actually live up to the, quote, middle of the road mantra. It's an easy way for her to do it, even though that is largely smoke and mirrors. But it's a way for her to do it. Can she do it? Will she do it? I hope so. I want to see her do it. Should be a no-brainer, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess, as to whether or not the governor is going to sign this bill. But bell to bell, no cell. Who thinks of these names? Do you think they pop these things into Chat GPT to try to figure out names for the bills that they pass in Topeka and Jeff City? Is there like a guy who's in charge of writing the bill names? Kind of like the New York Post used to have a guy who would write. Oh, they still do, probably. Mm-hmm. A guy who would write the headlines of the tabloids
Back
and the
in
stories.
the day, it was an art to write a headline and get it in so many words in the space and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a lost art. Maybe it's recycling.
I would agree.
They go out and they ask the guy who's been chanting with his sign up.
Yeah.
Bell to bell, no cell.
That's right.
They probably just find that guy.
That's probably
Don't
what
even
they
have
do.
to pay him.
Yeah, they might give him a sandwich or something, but that's about it. And then this yesterday, Ty Masterson, Senate President, writing on social media, today the Kansas Senate passed Senate Bill 339, which will require school districts to provide daily recess for Kansas kids, in addition to requiring a yearly Kansas state fitness test. This bill is common sense, MAHA, Make America Healthy Again measure, that promotes the physical fitness of our kids and encourages the formation of lifelong healthy habits. Let's take back Kansas and make Kansas kids healthy again. Now, I didn't know that there are school districts that don't have recess. My kids have 2 recesses, which is too many, I think. Not that I'm against physical activity, but to me, it signals the day is too long.
No, 3. You got to have 3.
3? John wants 3. All right, John was a big recess
I thought, weren't
guy.
they working on making sure they had an hour of recreation a day, and that'd be like 3 20-minute periods. We had a morning, and one right after lunch, and one in the afternoon.
You know, I don't know how
in the day.
long they are. I grew up with like one, 40-minute recess.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was kind of right smack dab in the middle of the day.
That
and
sounds good.
It worked great. We enjoyed it. But yeah, my kids have 2. Now, I've got to see how long each one is. They might each be 30 minutes. I don't know. I'm great with recess. I'm great with physical activity. I just didn't know that there were districts that didn't have recess. And if so, who are they and where? Because to me, it would seem like an obvious thing you'd want to have incorporated into a school day. I mean, the kids need it. Got to get them outside. Got to get some vitamin D. Got to get some fresh air.
Teachers need it.
Well, yes,
Right.
exactly. And the teachers need it. And
I
they
know.
deserve it, too.
Well, they used to stand around and commiserate with each other while the rest of us were running around being little hooligans. Right?
Exactly.
They were like, geez, there's so-and-so over there. See that kid?
Little John Anthony,
Oh,
he's out of control, that kid,
That
man.
kid's headed for radio if he doesn't straighten up.
Oh, man. So then you also have the Kansas State fitness test. Now, I remember this as a kid. We'd have these tests where you would do, a mile run and pull-ups and push-ups, and it was just a bunch of little things, right, to see how well you were in shape. And you would either get a national or a presidential award. Do you remember this from being a kid, Mark? Did you have this out here or no?
Oh, yeah. I was always pretty good at everything except for the sit and reach.
The sit and reach.
I was terrible.
That's what got you, the old sit and reach. All right. I got the national award a few times. I never got the presidential, which was like you had to be elite at everything. I could get the national, but I couldn't quite get to the presidential level. I didn't know they got rid of that. I don't know where it went. I don't know who got rid of it. Was that a Fed thing? Was that a state thing? I don't know. But I could see it going away because, well, what about the kids that don't get the awards? What about those kids? They're not going to feel good. It's like, come on, that's life, okay? Encouraging healthy lifestyles and habits and encouraging kids to challenge each other in physical activity is a good thing for society. It's a good thing. It's a healthy thing for kids. But like so many other things in today's world, well, we don't want to make somebody feel bad, so we're not going to do that. So I don't know when this went away, the physical fitness challenges in schools, but I'm glad Kansas is bringing them back. It's a benefit, I think, to everybody, even if you're the kid that's never going to be able to do it, even if you're Mark who can't do the sit and reach. It's a good thing for everybody. Fenny is in Shawnee and is a school bus driver. Fenny, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Hey, good morning. I appreciate you, Pete. And I just wish that my middle school, I wish they'd run 2 miles right before they get on my bus. They'd be pretty chill.
Oh, that's what you want. You want that 2 mile run before they get on the bus, Fenny.
Yeah, off the track, onto the bus.
Fenny, you are doing the Lord's work, my man, as that school bus driver. And I'll tell you what, there are a few people I appreciate in my life more than our school bus driver. And when I see her, she gets a big old wave from me. She gets a little thank you at the end of the year because you're keeping those kids in line and you're keeping them safe, brother.
Hey, I'm not the only one, and we need drivers.
Yeah. Hey, are you listening to the show while driving the school bus?
No, I'm sitting here parked. I'm rendezvoused, getting ready to start my route.
Oh, okay. Minutes. I was kind of hoping you'd be blasting the show to the kids in the back seat, but
no can do that.
Yeah,
they get old school country.
They get old school country. What's your go-to? Last thing, Fenny. What's your go-to?
Excuse me?
What's your go-to song for the kids? Old school country.
I'm going to say it'd have to be, oh, wow, that's a toughie.
You can give me two or three.
I started loving you again today. Rhonda Jackson. Today I started loving you again.
Okay. All right. You got it. All right. That's a good choice. That's a very good choice there, Fenny. We'll take it, buddy. Thanks so much, my man.
Have a good day.
Keep up the great work. I appreciate that. Well done. Very nice. Okay. Hey, that's the kind of stuff I love to hear morning after. Let's see what's on the text line, 913-408-7957. This is great. Pete, it's time to make competition great again. That's what I'm talking about. Woo! That's it right there. I love that, John.
Our friendly Google AI lets us know that it was President Obama who got rid of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He got rid of the standard fitness tests?
Yes,
oh,
sir.
My goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
His wife was trying to get better school lunches.
Well, that's what's weird. I give Michelle some credit for trying to make the school lunches healthier, but then Barack's out there, getting rid of the physical fitness tests. Oh,
yep.
Man.
Yep.
All right. Well, good job, Kansas. Well done there, everybody. Nice job. And join Kevin today at Conrad's Kitchen in Lee's Summit. Watch some college basketball. You've got the SEC tournament getting underway today. Kentucky playing in that first game at 11:30. And the winner of that game, Kentucky is playing, had it right in front of me, LSU at 11:30. The winner of that game will play Missouri tomorrow. So Kevin will be at Conrad's Kitchen today and tomorrow in Lee's Summit, watching some college basketball, doing his show there as well. I'll be stopping by at some point. Mark will stop by. John will stop by. The whole gang's going to be there. So watch some college hoops today and tomorrow with KCMO Talk Radio at Conrad's Kitchen in Lee's Summit. Melissa Johnson is 10 minutes away on KCMO, the Jackson County prosecutor. But first, Travis Kelce has spoken for the first time since re-signing this week with the Kansas City Chiefs, or agreeing to re-sign is how I should say it, with the Kansas City Chiefs. 1-year deal, $12 million. The podcast dropped this morning. Here's what Travis Kelce said on New Heights.
What point did you know for sure you were coming back?
About midway through the season.
So what were you waiting on then?
I think I was taking Jason Kelsey's advice. I was taking the advice to take a step back, because you got to let the emotions clear, and you got to have a clear head. I've made decisions based off of emotions, and they haven't always played out the right way. So I think taking a step back, letting the emotions settle down, the frustrations from the season. Of course I want to come back. Of course I don't want to end my career not making the playoffs and not having one of the best years, and taking a step back and letting it kind of build. And what's my desire? What's my body feel like? How did I feel going into this year versus coming out of this year, and where my body was at? Even letting it kind of settle, it still felt like I was hungry enough to get back at it. And obviously there's still a little bit of that grit and that emotion that, I hated the way that ended last year, and I want to make it right. I don't want to get another chance in another Super Bowl, man.
Patrick Mahomes' rehabilitation had nothing to do with it?
No. I knew that Pat was going to be Pat, and he's going to work his tail off to get back and be at his best. I knew that was a no-brainer. I knew Coach Reed was going to make adjustments. I knew Veach is going to do his best to get the best guys in here. We've got Eric Bieniemy, one of my favorite coaches of all time, coming back into the building. But outside of, I wanted to take a step back from all of that, because that adds to the emotion of wanting to play again.
Sure.
Absolutely. Those are all you list these pros and cons, and all of a sudden we get all these good pieces. But where's my body at, and where is my mental determination, my focus, my love for the game? All of that's still there. So once I let that kind of settle, and and the coaches and the Kansas City Chiefs knew all that going into the offseason.
There he is, Travis Kelce, this morning on the New Heights podcast.
When his mom and Taylor weren't at the last game, I kind of called it the Monday after.
Yes, you did. You're right. And the way that he kind of nonchalantly walked off the field at Arrowhead after that final game, combined with Travis and Donna not being there, it's like, there's no way. There's no way he's like, all right, guys, see you around. Great career. And his mom and his, I guess, fiance at the time, still fiance, not at the game. It just didn't make any sense. He was not emotional at all. There was nothing about Travis Kelce that last game of the year that was like, man, I don't know. It was just like, oh, okay, all right, we'll see you in September, I guess.
I think he was honest when he said halfway through the season he kind of knew he was coming back.
Yeah. I mean, I really think it just was about working out the money. And the money seems fair. Maybe overpaid a hair, let's be honest. Might have overpaid a hair. But you're really going to haggle over $2 million? I mean, it's a nice problem to have if you can do it, right? $2 million here, $2 million there. Just a rounding error for these guys.
I think having Taylor around kind of makes up for that $2 million for Clark Hunt.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Jeez. But you got to work under the salary cap. I understand it. It's not like Major League Baseball where it's a free-for-all. But it does seem like a fair deal. And that's all you want in any negotiation, right? You want everyone to feel like they got something out of it and that maybe they left a little bit on the table. And I think both sides in this deal feel like it was a good value and a fair deal. And that's all you want. That keeps everybody happy. Speaking of sports, just last night, this was weird. K-State's interim head coach, Matthew Driscoll, they get blown out by BYU in the Big 12 tournament. Their season's over. Driscoll was the interim coach for Jerome Tang. Listen to what he had to say after the game when he was asked about, filling in for Jerome Tang this season.
Absolutely miserable. I can't use another word than absolutely miserable. Every day, ulcers, not sleeping, not feeling good. I have an issue, I have a problem, and I've had it my whole life. And when I reached out to our psychologist that did the testing on us, he just said, Coach, that's just the way you're wired. All you're about is making sure things are organized and things are right. So if somebody gives me a task, my dad says that your last name's on everything. Don't ever screw up our last name. And so because of that, I'm wired differently. And so it's been very hard to mourn or be emotional. And I even asked my psychologist, why aren't I emotional? Like, why aren't I crying? Like, he's one of my best friends. Like, his daughter's my goddaughter. But it's because he asked me to do something, and I told these dudes I'm going to do it.
Okay, that's enough. This guy's a nut job. This guy's totally whacked. I'm sorry. I mean,
he's fired too.
How dare you?
He's done. He's out. Get him out of here. All right? I mean, give this guy a one-way ticket out of town, and I don't want to hear from Matthew Driscoll, the interim basketball coach at K-State, ever again. Holy cow. That was pathetic. You're a grown man, okay? I understand the season didn't go as planned. You're making $600,000 a year as the associate head coach, now interim head coach. Do your job. Stop whining and crying about it, and put your head down. And you know what? The season didn't go as planned. Move on. That was really embarrassing. Holy cow. On a string of embarrassing things for K-State basketball this year. We just wrapped up with Jackson County Prosecutor Melissa Johnson on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app, about the charges and the plea deal for Dominic Miller, one of the shooters involved in the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade rally from 2 years ago. I get the feeling that they're going to go harder after Lindell Mays. That was my read on that conversation. They're going to throw everything they can at him. And part of that was just to plead down what happened with Dominic Miller, because I don't think that they had
I was wondering
the juice there with Miller. Tammy and Lenexa. Go ahead, Tammy.
Good morning, Pete. I just wanted to thank Melissa Johnson for coming on. I think she does a fantastic job, honestly, of explaining her reasoning. She's very clear, and it was very enlightening to me as to understand why her office chose to do what they did. And also, the other thing is, when you look at taxpayer dollars to take someone to trial that they cannot prove without it, beyond reasonable doubt, that's a waste of taxpayer dollars also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, listen, this is not Gene Peters Baker 2.0. Okay, that's not what you've got here with Melissa Johnson. I know that a lot of people want to paint that broad brush. I'm not thrilled about it. She made her case. I think they've leaned a little too much into the politics of it in the moment, but overall, she has wildly exceeded expectations for a lot of people. I will say that. I've talked to cops who are very happy, for the most part, with how this new regime is doing in the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. So I will say that much and give credit where it's due, and we'll see how this plays out with the other individuals involved.
I like that it advances a conversation. We all have our implications or what's going on here. We all wonder, well, at least she came forward and explained it. So now if we have feelings about that, we know which way to go.
Exactly. And I did, as I mentioned Monday, I bumped into her. Kate and I were out for dinner, and I bumped into her at a restaurant, and she came up and said hello and was very pleasant and said, "You give me a fair shot." And I said, that's all I'm looking to do for anybody here. All right. Now, I think there are a lot of questions to ask, but I'll give you, whether it's her, the mayor, or anybody, I'll give you a fair shot. And if you're smart, you'll be able to figure out, obviously, how to have the conversation, how to answer the questions. Whether or not the listener agrees is obviously up to them, but we're going to give you a fair shot to at least explain yourself. Got a minute for Carl in Independence. Go ahead, Carl.
Hi, Pete. There's a reason for the stand your ground law to be the way it is. Used to be with the duty to retreat. It got to the point that no matter what happened, if you were the person who had to defend themselves from an attacker suddenly found they had to defend themselves from the law. People were being arrested all the time and run through the process. And quite unfairly. And that's the reason for the stand your ground law. Essentially, it's an enhanced castle doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us a long time to make this change, and it was a good one. And sometimes it looks like this dominant character he really should get fried. But sorry, I think this time the law has been appropriately applied.
Okay, so you agree with the Jackson County prosecutor?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right.
We don't have the evidence to prosecute this guy. I think she got the best she could.
Okay.
And if he ever shows up with another gun again, I'd say throw away the key. Throw him in, throw away the key.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate that, Carl. Thank you very much. Let's go to Washington State. Washington State, did you know that and many of you probably know this, but they were one of a handful of states that did not have a state income tax. Surprising, I know. You think about Texas and Florida and Wyoming, but you also have the blue state of Washington that has never had a state income tax. Until yesterday, the Washington State House passed what they are calling the millionaire's tax after more than a day of debating and heated conversation about what this tax could mean for everyone in the state. They're really just trying to get people who are making $1 million a year in the state of Washington and taxing them and bringing in about $4 billion per year is what they estimate in the general fund. People making more than $1 million per year would be paying a 9.9% tax on income above that threshold starting in 2029. So that's the plan right now. Not done yet, not signed yet, but, it's going through the legislature. What happened yesterday after that vote passed? Starbucks founder Howard Schultz announced that his family is leaving Seattle and moving permanently to Florida. On the same exact day, the Washington State House passed an income tax on Washington State. And Starbucks corporate is moving to Nashville. Way to go. How about way to go, everybody. Nice job. Nice job. It's almost like they think people will not vote with their feet. They will because they can, especially the richest of the rich. Look at New York. Look at Florida. You're seeing it happen there. But for some reason, these people in these other states think it'll never happen to us. This is Clark Hunt when he's walking into the Kansas State House. That's right. I don't blame him, by the way. He's got all these guys and gals by the short hairs there in Topeka. Good morning, 8:04. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Keatsman will be out at Conrad's Kitchen in Lee's Summit today, 11 to 1. Watch some basketball, watch some lunch. He'll be there tomorrow. Not watch some lunch, eat some lunch. He'll be there tomorrow as well. So today and tomorrow, watch some college basketball. Iowa State's playing today in the Big 12 tournament. Kentucky's playing as well. The winner of that Kentucky-LSU game will play Mizzou tomorrow. He'll be there for the Mizzou game at 11:30 tomorrow. It's going to be great, John.
You can watch some lunch disappear, actually, when I bust into the spicy Thai wings later today.
Man, you're selling me on the wings, brother. I'll be right behind you. So yesterday in Topeka, they were debating the Kansas Sports Facility Authority bill. And that would establish basically a sports authority for the state of Kansas, which is similar to what Jackson County has in Missouri. So this is something that is done all over the country. I'm not really bothered by the idea of a sports authority because most teams use it, all right? But when you look at some of the details of how the Kansas Sports Authority is set up for the Chiefs as they move across the state line, they got literally everything that they wanted. And State Senator Mike Thompson laid it out yesterday in a blog to his constituents that I have shared on my Facebook page, Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio. And you can see that the bill codifies the terms set forth in the agreement reached between the state of Kansas and the Chiefs back in December. They cannot be changed, and they will not be changed to give the Kansas taxpayer a fair shake. The bill grows government. The Chiefs have a seat on the Kansas Sports Authority, which is a blatant conflict of interest. That is not something that they have right now in Jackson County. They basically would be able to wink, wink, nod, nod, run the sports authority that's supposed to be an independent body away from the team itself. The Sports Authority would be exempt from a number of laws, including Open Records Act provisions, competitive bid processes, and fair hiring requirements. There is so much in there, where the Sports Authority would basically become an unaccountable shadow government, similar to, let's say, the Mid-America Regional Council, that continues to expand its scope into areas beyond its original founding, with no real oversight and no restrictions. Think of, similar to what the Port Authority is over in Kansas City, Missouri. There's a lot of similarities there. But the state of Kansas is going to ram this thing through. It's probably going to pass. But there was a big hearing yesterday. And, they took, obviously, comments towards the end of this hearing. And I thought one of the great comments came from a Wyandotte County resident. His name was Joe Taylor. He took the podium in front of a bunch of these lawmakers, and he said this.
One is that the people of the state of Kansas are not on the hook for these bonds. On page 1 at the bottom of the Monitor 2.0 document, there is a clause that says the Secretary can expand the size, change the size or location of the Star Bond District to finance the Star Bonds. What does that mean to you? Can expand the size, scope, location of the Star Bond District after the fact. So the question from the UG was, we want to know how big the Star Bond District is. You can't know, because the Secretary has been given the specific authority to expand it as necessary to finance the Star Bonds. No time limit. Okay? This is a problem, people. So effectively, if we don't get this tax revenue that we expect, the Secretary can just say, well, we're going to make the Star Bond bigger. Welcome to our group. Overland Park, Leawood. And there's nothing that even says it has to be contiguous anymore. There was. But now it can be any size or location. Hey, Wichita.
Come on in, baby. Come on down. Colby to Garden City to Liberal to Wichita and back around, baby. You get to be in a Star Bond District, and you get to be in the Star Bond District, and you also get to be in the Star Bond District. It's an excellent point. And there was not a single lawmaker that pushed back, that tried to supposedly correct the record. There was none of that. So if you now have a Commerce Secretary, right now that person is David Toland, who also happens to be Laura Kelly's Lieutenant Governor. And you can basically change the Star Bond District as you well please to make the math work on paying off the bonds. The state is going to drive itself off of a fiscal cliff. And all these so-called conservatives, many of whom are running for re-election, running for a higher office, all of them should be answering the same question on this deal. If you are going to forgo future sales tax revenues to pay off a multi-billion-dollar stadium, what are you cutting from your budget? Don't tell me it's going to be fine, it's going to grow itself, it's going to be A-OK, everything's going to work. No, what are you going to cut? And how are you going to go about cutting it? Because you're going to have to. If you're taking 300 square miles, some of the prime real estate in the entire state of Kansas, based on where the population centers are in this state right now, the only part of the state that's really growing is this part of the state. And you're going to take future sales tax revenues that would have gone to the state's general fund, and now you're going to use to pay off bonds on a football stadium. What are you cutting? What's your plan? What does that look like? Don't give me the economic development math mumbo-jumbo nonsense. Please don't give it to me. Just shoot it straight. You're forgoing future sales tax revenues you would have otherwise gotten. You're doing it with, at least for now, 300 square miles in Johnson and Wyandotte County. At least that's what the proposal looks like. You have a Commerce Secretary who can change that on a whim if they feel they need to make the bonds more secure. What does that look like? How are you going to handle that at the statewide level? They never really want to answer those questions because, well, why do that? Just celebrate the Chiefs coming to Kansas. That's what you're supposed to do. That's all they want you to know. That's all they want you to celebrate. And then they had this woman from Wyandotte County come up and basically beg state lawmakers to not pass this. And she's an old, poor minority woman, and I thought it was a really bad look for the state lawmakers.
Of 105 counties in Kansas, Wyandotte County residents have the lowest income of $32,000 per year, median household income of $60,000. They can't afford the taxes currently on their homes, causing their homes to be foreclosed on for taxes, and people who have owned their homes for generations to become homeless. These homes are then torn down, rezoned so that homes can no longer be built on small lots, and sold to investors with the hope that the money class will relocate to Wyandotte County. Please do not approve the Sports Authority. It is another step to overtax and displace Wyandotte County residents. Thank you.
Here's a little old lady who's never going to be able to buy a ticket to a game, never going to, supposedly benefit like all of Wyandotte County from having the Chiefs there. Because, by the way, if Wyandotte County was suddenly this oasis because of star bonds and, things like the Legends and the Speedway and things like that, why has it not happened yet? Oh, no, this is going to be the one, though, right? No, this is going to be the one. That makes one of the poorest counties in the state, which has been one of the poorest counties in the state forever, suddenly rich or something? Based on what? We tried it before. It hasn't worked. Why is it going to be any different now with 8 football games a year? Tell me. But once again, the state leaders are saying, don't look, don't believe your lying eyes, trust us, it's going to be great. And for a state that has seen some of the largest outflow of migration of any state in the country the last 12 to 18 months, you'd think that they would know better. You'd think that they would not literally live by the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. If they had actually peeled off a team from some other state, this might have made some sense. There might have been something there where you said to yourself, well, it's new. You had the Chiefs in your backyard. You had them on the other side of the state line. And you had absolutely zero risk associated with it. Zero. You had all the perks in many respects and absolutely zero risk. Now you've taken on all the risk and your perks, the politicians get a suite. The people, the folks, the taxpayers. Oh, man, they are laughing at you. They are laughing at you. Bonner Springs, that's where Dennis is. Hello, Dennis. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. My blood pressure has spiked on this. You said that they're going to take us off a cliff financially. They already have. But my point is, I thought I'm going to insulate myself from this star bond. I live 2 miles from it, the district. Well, I'm doing all my shopping south of the star bond district in Johnson County. I'm going to Missouri.
Well, no. You can't go to Johnson County. That's in the star bond district.
Well, the eastern part isn't.
Okay.
Correct?
Well, true. The eastern part isn't, but it doesn't matter. There's not an added tax necessarily, but you're saying you're doing that as your civic duty to make sure your sales tax revenues go to the general fund. Okay,
I'm not going to partake in this farce if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to North Oak to shop at the wholesale club.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all this. Then you tell me they can enlarge this thing if they see fit. So I'm in Leavenworth County. I might be part of it. It's got to stop somewhere. And what really got my blood pressure up, I was doing real good as you was talking, sir. But when you said no open records, I almost had to have Mark use the dump button. My point on that is the star bonds, the T in that stands for tax. They can tell me till the day I die there's no tax. It's a deep tax, period, end of sentence. And for no open records, when you're using tax money, that is beep, beep. Thanks, Pete.
All right, there you go. Dennis in Bonner Springs on KCMO Talk Radio. It's in the post I have on Facebook from Senator Mike Thompson. The Kansas Sports Authority bill that's being debated right now this week in Topeka exempts the Sports Authority from some open records requirements. Let's quickly go to Raytown and say hi to Bill. Go ahead, Bill. You're Justin in Raytown. Justin in Blue Springs. I got to get these callers right. I'm sorry, Justin. Go ahead, man.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, all we have to do is look over at Raytown and what the stadium has done over there for the economy, which is basically nothing. It's a dump over in that area. It doesn't look like they've invested anything in the economy over there. So to say that it's going to be boosting the economy over in Wyandotte and it's going to give back, I just don't see that.
Well, I agree with you, Justin. Now, there will be, obviously, they'll have some shopping and things like that. There'll be other mixed-use opportunities, I'm sure, that will bring more to the area than what currently exists. But when the main tenant is there 8 times a year, maybe you get something like 15 events. But as I've said for months now, what stadium show concerts are coming to Kansas City in January that would not have come here in the summertime and gone to Arrowhead? What? Which ones? Tell me. What's the stadium show going on right now? There's 6 acts in the country that can pull those things off. They're going to come here. They're done in the summer anyway. So spare me that we're getting 25 events a year thing. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Patrick Tuyo, join us on this and more bottom of the hour on KCMO Talk Radio. We've got some new economic data just dropped here within the last hour. Consumer prices rising 2.4% annually in February as expected. So that's the inflation rate, 2.4%. That is what the Bureau of Labor Statistics data showed this morning. Both numbers matched what the expectations were, 0.3% for the month, 2.4% annually. So that's good. That's good. I mean, we're getting closer to that Federal Reserve target of 2%. We've been now in the mid-2s on the inflation number for the last couple of months or so. So that's where you want to be. I mean, I hear this. When are the prices coming down? We talked to Esther George. She's the former chair of the Kansas City Federal Reserve on Monday. And, we talked about how maybe Trump on the campaign trail should not have said, I'll bring your prices down. But what he really meant is that I'm going to slow down the rate of inflation so the prices don't go up as quickly. The only way you can get prices down outside of you can get gas prices down, right? But I mean, in terms of getting inflation down, the only way you can do that is if there's some major economic calamity that nobody wants, because then that causes a lot of other kinds of pain that you don't want to see. So what it really was about slowing down the increase in prices when you had inflation between 5 and 9% for nearly 2 years, from middle of 21 to middle of 23, when we saw that inflation rate go from anywhere from 5 to 9% for almost 2 years. And wages never really caught up with that. So now when people are like, everything's still unaffordable, first off, yeah, I get it, because wages over the last 5 years on average did not keep up. But when you've got now inflation rates over the last few months sitting in that 2.5 to 2.7, 2.8% range, it's not the 2% the Fed wants, but it's pretty darn good. It's where you want it to be. There's still work to do, but you combine that with tax refunds that are expected to be larger than ever before. That's going to be happening for a lot of Americans over the next few weeks or so. You have wages outpacing inflation over, the last several months. That's a good sign. There are trends that suggest things are slowly starting to get back on track. But it's not going to happen overnight. And by the way, there are things within the economy as well that the federal government can't really control. If your local governments, if your county and city governments are spending out of control and they're increasing your property taxes at unbelievable rates, well, what is Trump or Mike Johnson or anybody else going to do about that? It's a local issue. And those problems are not going away anytime soon either, right? So there's a lot to it beyond just like whatever can happen in Washington, D.C. But this was a solid number coming in this morning. It doesn't create some kind of panacea if you're the White House, but it definitely doesn't hurt you. And right now, that just means you're holding serve, and that's okay for the time being.